Okay, so Civil Wars.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going deep on this one.
Deep dive.
A deep dive. We've got a ton of sources here.
Okay.
We've got like this big pasted text document
Right.
highlighting, some of the big ones from history,
Yeah.
like the American Civil War and the Spanish Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
but also some stuff that's going on tragically in Africa.
Yeah.
Like right now.
It's a tough topic.
It's a tough topic. These conflicts, they really tear nations apart from the inside.
Absolutely.
It's like it's neighbor against neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
and they just shatter societies.
It's a breakdown of everything.
Yeah. And to help us unpack all of this complexity,
Right.
we've got an expert here
Well, I don't know about all that.
who can shed some light on, on the causes, consequences,
You're right.
the human cost of all this.
The human cost, yeah. It's always tragic. It really is like looking through a kaleidoscope of despair. It's never simple, never like a clean us versus them kind of thing.
Right.
You've got so many factors, politics, obviously, economics,
Mm-hmm.
social unrest,
Yeah.
and then sometimes these really, really deep-seated ethnic or religious divisions.
So it's almost like a perfect storm has to brew for a society to just completely fracture like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And then it seems like there are often, outside forces too
Oh, absolutely. Right.
that are kind of adding fuel to the fire.
I feel it, yeah.
Even like exploiting the chaos.
Exploiting it, taking advantage. That's a common thread through a lot of these.
Right.
So to really get a grasp on civil wars, I think we need to start with what actually makes them unique.
Okay. So what is it then? What makes a conflict a civil war as opposed to like a revolution or rebellion?
Right. Good question. Well, the main thing is, in a civil war, you've got organized groups
Okay.
within the same country
Okay.
that are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fighting for control. It could be control of the government.
Okay.
It could be control of a certain region.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might be trying to force some kind of big political change.
Right.
So it's a power struggle at its core, but it often goes deeper than that.
Okay.
It often becomes about identity,
Right.
about who belongs
Mhm.
and who gets to decide the future, the future of the nation.
Right. So that brings us to, I think, one of the most iconic and tragically defining civil wars in history,
Yeah,
the American Civil War.
the American Civil War.
I think we all know the basic story, right?
Sure.
Slavery, states' rights,
North versus South.
North versus South. But it's so easy to just kind of get lost in the dates and the battles and forget about the sheer human cost
Oh, absolutely.
of this conflict.
Yeah,
Over 600,000 soldiers died,
that's right.
and countless civilians.
Yeah.
Pictures from disease, starvation, just the chaos of war.
Just the chaos.
Like Sherman's March to the Sea, for example.
Right.
That wasn't just some military tactic.
No.
That was like deliberate destruction
Destruction.
of infrastructure, crops,
Total war.
entire towns.
It was brutal.
And the bitterness. I mean, think about the bitterness that must have fueled.
Oh, yeah.
Some would say it affects Southern politics and economics even today.
And some would say it's still there. It's still bubbling under the surface.
It's a stark reminder that the wounds of a civil war,
Yeah.
I mean, they can take generations to heal.
Generations, yeah.
And it's hard to imagine, just the psychological scars
Oh, yeah.
left on both sides.
Both sides.
This sense of loss,
Loss, yeah.
betrayal.
Betrayal.
That must have just permeated every aspect of life.
It must have.
Right. It makes you wonder if any victory in a civil war can really feel, complete
Right.
when the divisions just run so deep.
Yeah, is it really a victory? If your country's still broken,
Yeah.
it's a question a lot of nations have had to wrestle with.
And Reconstruction in the U.S., I mean, that was a monumental effort.
It was.
But it was also flawed, right?
It was. Yeah.
I mean, the legacy of slavery.
Of slavery and racial injustice.
Yeah.
It continued.
I mean, it casts a long shadow.
A shadow that's still there.
I mean, one that we're still grappling with today.
Absolutely.
And, speaking of outside influence, right?
Okay.
Let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
to the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
This one often gets, kind kind of overshadowed.
It does.
But it was really, I mean, it was a chilling preview
It was.
of World War II.
A preview of what was to come.
And how external forces can just kind of exploit these internal conflicts.
Absolutely.
What's striking about the Spanish Civil War is how it basically became a proxy war.
A proxy war. That's a good way to put it. It's when bigger powers, they back different sides of a conflict.
Right.
Right. But they do it as a way to kind of get what they want without actually fighting each other directly.
Right.
So in Spain, you had the Republicans.
Okay.
They represented a mix of, leftist and democratic forces.
Okay.
And they were fighting against the nationalists who were more aligned with fascism. And this wasn't just a Spanish thing. I mean, you had volunteers coming from all over the world.
Right. They flocked to Spain.
He flocked to Spain.
Drawn to the fight against fascism.
Right.
Or, maybe the allure of these revolutionary ideals.
The romance of it.
Yeah. I mean, even authors like Ernest Hemingway.
Right.
George Orwell.
Famous author.
I mean, they immortalized this conflict in their writing, right?
Yeah.
They really captured that sense of urgency.
The urgency and the brutality.
The brutality.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Both sides committed atrocities.
Right.
I mean, and the conflict, it became like a testing ground for new military technologies.
Right.
I mean, the German Luftwaffe's bombing of Guernica.
Right.
A horrific attack on a civilian town. I mean, Picasso even depicted it in his art. It's just a chilling example of the human cost of these proxy wars.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly, ideology and ambition can lead to devastating violence.
Yeah.
And sadly, this cycle of civil war continues.
It does.
And nowhere is that more evident than in Africa.
Africa.
I mean, this is a continent that has been just plagued by internal conflicts in modern times.
So many.
It's tragic.
It is. Africa's colonial legacy, coupled with all these ethnic tensions,
right?
Competition for resources.
Yeah.
It's created a perfect storm for conflict.
Right.
And while these conflicts may seem isolated,
right,
they have ripple effects.
Yeah. Across
borders. They destabilize whole regions.
Right.
They contribute to these huge refugee crises and the spread of violence.
Yeah. Let's zero in on Rwanda for a second.
Okay.
This wasn't just some, like some of the headlines said, tribal conflict.
Right.
The seeds of the Rwandan genocide, I mean, they were sown decades earlier.
Yeah.
By colonial powers.
That's right.
Who basically exacerbated these existing ethnic tensions
between the Hutus and the Tutsis.
Right.
Yeah.
And they did it for their own gain.
They did.
And the world just stood by.
Yeah.
As these unimaginable atrocities unfolded. It's a tragic testament to the international community's failure to prevent.
To prevent.
And to respond to genocide.
Absolutely.
The Rwandan genocide, I mean, it is just a harrowing example of how quickly ethnic tensions can escalate into mass violence.
Absolutely.
Especially when they're fueled by political opportunism.
Political opportunism and hate propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also highlights the complexity.
The complexities.
Of post-conflict reconciliation.
Yeah.
And just the long road to healing.
For a nation that's been shattered.
Yeah.
By trauma like that.
I mean, think about it this way. Like if you were trying to rebuild a country, after a conflict like that, where would you even start?
It's hard to even fathom. It's an enormous undertaking.
And international organizations, I mean, they play a crucial role, right?
Oh, they do.
In providing humanitarian aid and engaging in peacekeeping efforts.
Peacekeeping.
But even they face immense challenges.
Absolutely. I mean, rebuilding societies like that, it requires a multi-pronged approach. You have to address the root causes of the conflict.
Okay.
You've got to promote good governance, invest in education, economic development, and hold perpetrators of the violence accountable. It's a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
But the stakes, I mean, they couldn't be higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the battlefields of the American Civil War
Yeah.
to the ongoing struggles
In Africa.
in Africa. What stands out to you as like the most important takeaway
Oh, that's a good question.
from our deep dive into this, this complex and tragic topic?
For me, it's the human cost. I mean, beyond the statistics, beyond the political and ideological debates,
Right.
it's the individual lives that are shattered, the families that are torn apart, the potential futures that are just lost. I mean, that should motivate us to seek peace and understanding.
Couldn't agree more. And as we move forward, it's crucial to remember that the factors that lead to civil wars, they're complex and interconnected.
They are.
I mean, climate change,
Resource
scarcity,
Yeah.
mass migration, the rise of new technologies.
Technology.
I mean, these are all just adding fuel to the fire.
They are. They're adding new layers of complexity to an already volatile landscape.
Right.
Understanding how all these things are connected.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crucial for coming up with effective strategies.
Right.
For conflict prevention and peace building in this century, in the 21st century.
So the next time you hear about some far off conflict, remember it's not just, those people over there.
It's not.
The ripple effects of civil war, I mean, they can touch us all.
They can.
So what will your role be in building a more peaceful world?
What will yours be?
That's a good question for everybody listening out there.
Think about it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll catch you next time.
See you later.